Hi, and welcome back. Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk. Just checked on the break. My Giants up on the Cincinnati Reds 6-3 in the bottom of the sixth. My Giants lost the first two games, 5-game series, lost the first two games, bounced back, won the next two on the Cincinnati Reds home turf at the Great America Ballpark. Now they are leading by 3 runs in the bottom of the sixth. I just have 2 words, go Giants. Let's pick up one more phone call here before we jump back into content. Let's go to Brian in Grants Pass, Oregon. Brian, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
First, I want to thank you for your show. I've called before. I don't think I actually said that.
Well, you're welcome. Well, thank you.
I was thinking about you were talking about the budget for the embassies, the security and everything.
Yes,
And you had a caller call in, and he mentioned he thought it might have been lower, and it struck me that, I mean, you've already shown us the math that it's higher, but even if it was lower, there's certain things you don't cut in your budget, and security would be the top one at an embassy. If you're at an embassy and you have a budget, so much of it goes to security. If your budget gets cut, you don't cut the security, you cut other things.
Right.
So no matter what.
Yeah, you cut the catering budget, or you cut the entertainment budget, or you do something to make sure your security is up to speed.
Or the electric car budget, that type of thing. Yes, exactly.
Well, and that's the thing, Brian. That's the thing that I find the most aggravating is the Democrats are out there trying to pass the buck off on and the blame on to Republicans for cutting the security budget while they're the ones that are cutting security staff and increasing funding for electric cars criminally. Use your heads.
Yes, exactly. But
All
thanks again for the show.
Okay, Brian, you're sure welcome, and thank you for the call. I appreciate that very much. Let's play a couple of more sound bites. By the way, this is just sort of an incidental, but before we get back into these sound bites, do you know who is making bank off the Obama phone? I mean, you got to stop and think about this. Somebody's got to make those Obama phones. Somebody's got to sell them. Somebody's got to get the money for those cell phones. Somebody's got to receive that money that Obama's sending out to buy these phones for people. You know who it is? It's the richest man in the world. I arf you not. The richest man in the world is making bank off Obama phones, off of you and me. Our money, our taxpayer money, going to D.C. right into the pockets of the richest man in the world. So don't tell me that the liberals in D.C. are all about the little guy and they just want to help the poor. They are shoveling money. You talk about a shovel-ready project. They are taking shovels and they're filling this guy's trunk up with our money. Here's a piece from Fox News. A Mexican telecom mogul who holds the title of the world's richest man and one of President Obama's top donors, interestingly enough, is getting richer from the U.S. government program that supplies so-called Obama phones to the poor. His name is Carlos Slim. It's S-L-I-M. Looks like Slim. I've never heard it pronounced. I'm guessing it's Slim. Carlos Slim sounds like a Mexican country western singer to me that you'd see advertising on these cheesy ads on TV. So I think it's Carlos Slim, not Carlos Slim. But anyway, this guy is already worth $70 billion with a B dollars, but he owns a controlling stake in TracFone. That's TRACFONE. That's the outfit that makes $10 per phone for every device it provides to poor Americans. So Carlos Slim, he's already worth $70 billion. He gets $10 every time Barack Obama sticks an Obama phone in the hands of some low-income American. And the president and CEO of his company is a guy by the name of Frederick Pollock. He also makes money from extra minutes and data plans it sells to subscribers who get the phones and services through the government's Lifeline program. Now, this thing under Obama has exploded. It started off being landlines for the poor so they could call an emergency if their house is burning down and they need an ambulance. Now they are providing these cell phones to people. They're going out there and buying extra data plans and all kinds of things with it. Now, nobody objects to poor people having a phone where they can call 911. Now, I do not think that is any business of the government's. According to the Constitution, that ought to be up to private charity. And you can go out and raise money for this, and people would be willing to give to something like that. We want to make sure that poor people in our community have a landline. They've got a phone so they can call 911 if they need to. I think you could raise money for a task like that. That money would be watched. It would be monitored. It would be used wisely. It would be used carefully. So nobody's saying that the poor shouldn't have these emergency phones. Nobody is saying that. So don't anybody accuse anybody of saying they shouldn't have these phones. We're just saying that's not a proper role or function of government. And all this is, it turns out, is crony socialism. All this is Barack Obama finding a way to give two of his big donors a whole boatload of cash. And he's boosted this program in the last 4 years. It's just absolutely exploded in the last 4 years. So TracFone, 3.8 million subscribers as of late 2011. 3.8 million. Now remember, he gets $10 a phone. So Carlos Slim, through the end of 2011, had made $38 million off of phones for the poor. $38 million. He's making bank off of this, out there buying himself whole batches of new yachts. Now this Pollock guy, who is the CEO and president of this company, he's donated $156,000 to Democratic candidates and committees this election cycle, including at least $50,000 to the Obama campaign. This is vulture socialism. It is crony socialism. His wife is a campaign bundler for Obama. She's raised more than $632,000 for President Obama this cycle, and more than $1.5 million since 2007. She's personally contributed more than $200,000 to Democrat candidates and committees since 2008. The Pollocks, that's the president of Carlos Slim's company. This is a guy that makes bank off the extra minutes and data plans they sell to people that have these track phones. They hosted Obama at their Miami Beach home in June for a $40,000 per plate fundraising dinner, and they hosted a similar event with Michelle Obama in 2008. The couple personally donated a combined $66,200 to Obama's reelection effort in that year back in 2008. So that just, oh man. So here's the richest guy in the world getting even richer off of a program designed to help the poor. Whose money is it that's going into the wallet of the richest man in the world? You and me. We got to pay for our own cell phones, and we have to pay Carlos Slim so he can put cell phones in the objects of Barack Obama's benevolence. Now let's go back, play some sound bites from yesterday. This is from the actual hearing that took place. This is clip number 4. Sandy Adams, Representative Sandy Adams, she's a former law enforcement officer, and she's here talking to Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Programs, Charlene Lamb. And I want some of her testimony yesterday. And boy, you talk about somebody, a deer in the headlights, has no idea what she's talking about. I mean, over her head, out of her league, completely unqualified for the responsibilities. That would be Charlene Lamb, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. And here's the exchange between Sandy Adams and Charlene Lamb. Let's listen.
Now, as a former law enforcement officer, I recognize there are certain dates that law enforcement across our great nation prepare for because we believe they are significant to certain groups, one of which is September 11th, and it is significant to which group, Ms. Lamb? Which group would make that significant?
I'm not sure I'm following your question.
Which terrorist group finds September 11th significant?
I'm sure all terrorist groups would find.
But mostly Al-Qaeda. Would you not agree? Yes or no? If you don't agree, say you don't agree.
Yes, I'm sure.
That's amazing. And then she looks away. I mean, she knows the answer is Al-Qaeda. She just doesn't want to say it. So either she doesn't know the answer, which nobody believes, or she's deliberately trying to obfuscate and deny this committee the truth it needs to have. Now, here is Mike Kelly. This guy's one of the good guys up on Capitol Hill, and he's going after these State Department officials. And I just want to play a pretty good section of his questioning because he's pretty emotional, and I think he has a right to be. Let's listen.
And I asked the same question. Where the heck were we before 9/11, this 9/11? Why weren't we questioning it then? My goodness. 230 security incidents in Libya between June of 2011 and July of 2012. Of those attacks, 48 took place in Benghazi, 2 of which at the U.S. diplomatic compound and the scene of the September 11, 2012 terrorist attacks. And we are still saying, I think it's a result of the video that was on YouTube. And this is based on intelligence. Now, listen, I got to ask you, Ambassador Kenny, because you say you couldn't possibly have had a different idea about it than Secretary Rice did when she went before the nation on September the 16th. I'm going to tell you, this thing smells. From every single, listen, it waddles like a duck and quacks like a duck. It's a duck. It's a duck. And for you to come in here and say, well, it was based on some of the things I knew, but I can't tell you all that I knew. We've got 4 Americans dead. And I got to tell you, it's very upsetting for me to go back home and look at those people in the eye, people who don't do what we do here with all the briefings and all the intelligence, just guys that go out and work every day and women that go out and work every day, and they can come home and they can figure it out. But we're still trying to figure it out and piece it together, and you watch it in real time. And the account wasn't there. The ambassador was that night saying goodbye to a Turkish friend outside the gates, and everything was quiet. But my goodness, those terrorists got a hold of that, or these Islamic extremists got a hold of that video, and between 8:30 and 9:40, they decided to just go crazy.
So that's Mike Kelly, and we pointed this out earlier. Look, you know, the timeline is very clear that Ambassador Stevens was hosting a diplomat from Turkey, and they finished their conversation at 8:30 that night. And he ushered them to the door of the consulate. He left the compound, all quiet on the Western Front. Not a peep, no protest, no activity. It was quiet in the neighborhood at 8:30 that night. And what Mike Kelly is saying, look, what the administration wanted us to believe and tried to get us to believe, that somewhere between 8:30 and 9:40, somebody suddenly tumbled onto this YouTube video. They got outraged by it. They shared it with their friends, and they all ran to the neighborhood convenience store and bought some automatic weapons and some rocket-propelled grenades and organized a 3-pronged military-style attack on the Libyan consulate that began at 9:40. You know, and Mike Kelly said, look, this is just absurd. It's ridiculous that you would expect anybody to believe a story like that. But the Obama administration out there trying to get people to believe that very thing. Focal Point AFR Talk back in 2.
Hey, have you got a minute?